Hey, greetings, Internet! This is Matt Meyer, host of the Comic Watchers Show. Welcome to episode number 144. Somehow, some way, we made it this far. It's crazy, right? Anyway, my normal co-host, Mikey Eakins, is not here because he is prepping to go live with Baltimore Comic-Con for us as not our first, but one of our first correspondents, hot out of the gate in a real live con in this pandemic world we live in. So pretty crazy, right? So therefore, Mike, buddy, take your prep time. It's all good. But listen, this week for Halloween Hootenanny Part 3, we are going to be talking about Walking Dead Season 11 Part 1. And for this particular episode, I have a very special guest, the one and only beautiful and talented Catherine Meyer, who is going to be joining me. She's been fangirling out about Walking Dead since at least season 2, I want to say. So we're going to get right into this thing. This is a huge season. If you're a Walking Dead fan, please feel free to jump in, tweet, comment, all that good stuff. And we're not Chris Hardwick, but and she's not Yvette Nicole Brown, but we're going to do our best to make this thing work. Yes, she's got her notes. She got her supernatural shirt. So we're going to do this. So season 11 sees our survivors finding a brand new port of civilization. So there's been 3 main arcs and threads this year so far. There's been go ahead. Alexandria, right?
We got Maggie's group going to look for food to support Alexandria.
Which that split off and did Daryl on his own, meeting up with his boo from the end of last season in the bonus episodes that we got, which were of shockingly disappointing quality.
Yeah, a little disappointing, but
yeah, there were more than a little disappointing. It's okay. We're not here to talk about that. What we are going to talk about, of course, then is also Ezekiel and Princess and Eugene and Yumiko all hanging out in the Commonwealth.
Yes.
Which, if you read the comics, Commonwealth, holy cow, this is like the big end point for the comic, is finding what is essentially new civilization. In the comics, when Kirkman and Adler introduced the Commonwealth, it was very similar to what we see in the show. It was a thriving community of about 50,000 people that, frankly, if it weren't for the weird stormtrooper get up, you would not know that there was an apocalypse on if you were just hanging out. It's like normal life. So this is sort of the end point that the comic had been building to. And so, of course, in a lot of ways, despite the fact that the show itself has diverged and swerved and mixed and matched a lot of the themes and stories from the comic, it makes sense that we would eventually wind up here. So let's just start with the Commonwealth, because that is definitely the biggest, most biggest plot line, storyline that has the most potential. Catherine, what do you think about Commonwealth so far?
Well, I've read all the comics, so I know where it's going. Except the show doesn't always go the way that the comics are going. So I want to say it's going to end up going well for Alexandria, but I also know how things ended for some of our main characters once they found the Commonwealth, and I don't know who they would kill off at this point.
Right.
So long as it's not Jerry, I'm cool.
Yeah, Jerry must be protected at all costs.
Yeah.
Connie, now that she's back, must be protected at all costs. Judith, little ass kicker herself. We know, of course, that Daryl and Carol are spinning off in 2023 to the Daryl and Carol Power Hour. So, we know that they're safe. But I would say beyond those characters, anybody else is fair game at this point. Um, for those of you who have not read the end of the comics Walking Dead, I'm just going to tell you, spoilers on. At this point, I mean, there's no way to not talk about it. So we're just going to talk about it. But the comic ends with Rick getting killed and in fact outright assassinated in the Commonwealth by the little shit that we met in the penultimate episode of this season that was like, oh my god, I can't believe you guys would save me from zombies when I'm trying to mac on this chick. And yeah, he's really, oh god, what a jerky kid. So, I mean, what do you think about the Commonwealth itself? Like, and how does it translate to against what we see in comics? What about Mercer? I mean, is this a pretty faithful adaptation of what we read in comics?
I think so. And to the point that like they try to have people doing what they were doing pre the end of the world. So if you were a high school teacher before the end of the world, guess what? You're going to be a teacher now too.
So it's a little bit of a caste system in that way.
It really is. And I've always thought that the Commonwealth was a little shady, but
it is, but it's not oppressive. Right? It's not run by the governor, who's a lunatic. It's not Negan's people. It's certainly not weirdos walking around with zombie masks on in the forests. I mean, it really is. It's not a great system of government, right? But it's certainly functioning and even thriving.
That's true. That's true. So my biggest issue so far with the show is that Yumiko accidentally, unknowingly outed her brother as a surgeon during the interview process to get into the Commonwealth. And so she finds her brother and he's working in a bakery, which is well below his skill level, apparently. And so they're catching up and everything, and he gets arrested, and we don't know really why, but I'm going to bet it's because he lied about being a surgeon.
Yes. And that in and of itself is different, is a little bit of a divergence from the comics. Especially because, I mean, in comics, it was Michonne finding her adult daughter, not Yumiko, who frankly, after I think 3 seasons of being on the show, I still just don't care about. I mean, it's not the actress's fault by any stretch of the imagination, but she's just been pretty underwritten from the get-go. She's one of the groups, one of the group that came in. I want the start of season 9.
Yeah, she came in with Connie and
start of season 9. And all of those people have just kind of had, except for Connie, have just kind of had small bit parts to play. And I think they're trying to elevate Yumiko, and that's great, except for the fact that they haven't really given us a reason to care about Yumiko. So that's disappointing, and the fact that she's just underwritten as a character really, really just takes all of the emotional impact out of that remixed plot point. So, I mean, that's unfortunate. But on the other hand, at least they're now trying to work and give her some depth, which is, better late than never. I would have, honestly, I think, and we know that Ezekiel is currently struggling with cancer. We have for about a full season or so worth of episodes now. He's got a goiter on his neck. That's a thirsty bitch. And, and he's, the last time we saw them in the next to last episode of this season, or season so far, I should say, he said he'd been given medicine, been given treatment, and it was a lot better. So I am hoping, it is my hope, that Ezekiel is able to find survival of cancer in the Commonwealth. And I think that could potentially set up an interesting situation where if Ezekiel does get cured, does he feel a sudden indebtedness to the Commonwealth that could put him or strain his relationships with Alexandria? I'm not saying it will happen. It seems a little out of character for Ezekiel, but our writers on the show are never, well, not never, but they're known to kind of twist characters' motivations around a little bit in order to further a plot. So it could happen. But even if Ezekiel did die of cancer, that would mean we lost Kari Payton, and that would be terrible because I've loved him as Ezekiel.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just don't know how likely it is that they're going to find a treatment for his cancer. It appears to be the lymph node system, and that requires chemotherapy, and who knows if they've got the means to do that. So,
I mean, they've got a lot of tech in the Commonwealth.
That's
I mean,
true.
it's pretty functional as a society there.
Right. I agree. I thought it was really interesting that they do definitely use the US dollar as their currency there.
Yes, that was a good detail.
That was a great detail. And they have ice cream.
Yes.
That's like one big reason right there for everybody in Alexandria to just skip on down the road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
ice cream.
We haven't met Madam President yet.
We have not.
They showed her in the previews for the next part of the season, which I think debuts in February.
Mm-hmm.
Blanked on her name, Pamela
Milton.
Milton. Thank you, Pamela Milton. And she's an interesting counterpoint to Rick in the comics because she's very pragmatic.
Mm-hmm.
She's not, like I said, she's not the governor. She's not Negan. She's certainly not Alpha. But she's very much a politician. And she's the type of politician that we recognize from, before the apocalypse. And she's very much concerned with her own political survival. And it's not that the Commonwealth runs badly. I mean, it could be better, but it's not this massive oppressive thing. It's not this huge threat. Like, one of the things that happens in comics is Dwight really, really gets freaked out, and he tries to get Rick worked up. It's like, yo, we need to rise up. We need to have a rebellion, just like we did against Negan.
And Rick tried to squash it.
And Rick tried to squash the beef. He was like, listen, that's not what this is. And, Daryl couldn't handle it. Dwight couldn't handle it. And he eventually freaked out and tried to assassinate Milton. And Rick saved her life and shot him in the head. And, Dwight, he's over on Fear the Walking Dead now. Yep. So he can't fulfill that role. So at some point, I think we can look towards somebody fulfilling that role. I don't think it'll be Eugene. I certainly don't think it would be Princess.
I don't know. I mean, it can't be Princess. Princess is too happy. But I mean,
can't be
Eugene. So Rick's not on the show anymore. Michonne's not on the show anymore. They killed Andrea off forever ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, she was dead at this point in the comics. I'm actually wondering because, at some point, other members of Alexandria have got to get up to the Commonwealth, right? It's just logic. My money is actually at this point, it could either be Aaron,
yes,
or Father Gabriel.
Ooh.
I think both of those characters are very prime suspects to fulfill the Dwight role and just really wig out. Probably Aaron, since we're doing comparisons to Negan, because, he lived under Negan's oppressive thumb longer than, no, I guess he didn't. I'm thinking wrong. Never mind. Forget I spoke. But Aaron, I don't know. He's been a little hard to pin down this season. Like, when he's got screen time, he's definitely turning a corner and making some tougher decisions that we've not seen from him before, probably aided and abetted by his giant fighting club on the end of his arm, because they don't have the budget to CGI out his severed hand every episode. So they just, got a club now. So, but I mean, Gabriel might be the point man in that regard. And that would be terrible because he's going down, like, Seth Gilliam has done such a great job, like, slowly evolving this character through the seasons. And he's, it's just a phenomenal actor. And he's kind of hit this point where this year where he's still wearing his preacher's attire, his collar and whatnot, but he flat out told that Reaper God isn't here and just shot him.
We haven't talked about the Reapers yet.
I know, but we're gonna get there. So I mean, if there's anyone that whose behavior is sort of skewing towards he might flip shit, I'm thinking Gabriel.
Yeah, but then who fulfills the Rick? Maggie?
It would almost have to be at this point because she's the de facto leader of Alexandria now.
Right? I mean, you can't kill Carol.
Can't kill. Yeah,
She's
Carol
got a
and
power
Daryl are
hour to
both
do.
safe. Right, they have their power hour. So I mean, that's a lot of prognostication, and I mean, that's also assuming that the show ultimately goes out the same way that the comic did, which we don't know. One thing that is really really different in the comic versus the show, like overall, is the fact that throughout the comic things gradually get better, right? And so it actually makes sense when they stay, in comics they stave off Alpha's massive herd, they link up with the Commonwealth. It's a natural evolution, but they keep backpedaling on the show. It's like this season starts like, oh, they're low on food again. Oh, the zombies are knocking on the door again. It's like they can't seem to allow the characters and the show to evolve past this default setting of constantly having to worry about food insecurity. So that in and of itself means that the relationship between Alexandria and the Commonwealth has to look different, because in comics, like, Alexandria and Hilltop did not need Alexandria, or excuse me, the Commonwealth.
Right.
They were good to know. They were good to know, but they certainly were thriving without them. At this point, the way the show has set it up, Alexandria needs the Commonwealth, which is a very, very, very different dynamic. So that need and that fact that they're kind of pushing they're still pushing the, oh my God, how are we going to survive the next week angle, really is kind of been, for me, the low point of this season, is that we're still having to beat this drum. What do you think, Catherine?
Well, so they were in a good spot. They had gone to that museum. What was it? It was the Smithsonian, right?
I don't know if it was a Smithsonian, but it was a fancy pants museum.
They went to the Fancy Pants Museum. They got farming equipment. They got a plow. They got a wagon. They got seeds so that they could grow crops and everything. And then the Whisperers showed up, and the Whisperers burned their shit down. And the Whisperers killed a bunch of people. And then the kingdom went to pot with its plumbing issues. And just one thing after another. And yes, now they are right back to who's going to feed us? Well, who's going to feed us is Carol killing horses. It was very gross and very sad. The saddest
Man, they had to eat some shit.
The saddest I've seen Carol be about killing something since that season 6 mental break.
Right.
But yeah. So they were in a good spot, and then things just kept happening to them, and they couldn't catch a break, and now we're back to how do we get back on track?
Right.
And that's where Maggie's group comes in. Maggie brought some people home with her. She brought Herschel, and then she brought some people from a community that she had been in. And
one of them had a dumb mask, and
he was in mourning. He was having some personal issues. You leave that kid alone.
Can you name any of these characters that Maggie brought with her? No, because they were all mercilessly slaughtered in
Agatha.
Very short time.
I can name Agatha because
it was Agatha all along.
Who can get to an apocalypse and not have changed that name for themselves?
Yeah, she could have been anything, but she chose to stick with Agatha all along. So, I mean, but really, like, these people were introduced at the tail end of last season as though they were going to be important, and then they're just mercilessly mowed down by the Reapers.
We have one of them that's still alive.
Yeah. Again, I don't know his name.
I don't know his name.
That's kind of the problem with the show that's, got the pattern of killing people off by necessity, by design, that Walking Dead does. But, you're now 11 seasons deep, and you're gonna start running through characters and running into writing problems and running out of ways to make people care. And I never cared about any of these people that Maggie brought with her, not a single one. And the writers seem to be pretty aware of that when they just so ruthlessly mowed most of them down with very, very grim efficiency.
Oh yeah.
That, so that kind of gets us into the next part of the uh trio of story arcs that we've got, and that's Maggie, Negan, and everyone else that are on this mission to steal a bunch of food from the stronghold that is now in the hands of the Reapers. Now, the Reapers were brought in at the tail end, or excuse me, in one of the COVID bonus episodes last year. We didn't know a lot about them. Very cookie cutter in their way at the time, and I'm still not 100. Like, it almost like the way they were introduced is really not the way that the show has played out, because they were kind of uh introduced as this ultra mysterious, ultra badass, almost like a cadre of special forces types that could jump out of the shadows and kill you, with a ruthless fanaticism. And I mean, okay, that's interesting. It's like, oh, all right, at this point, how much more can you really give us with uh another group of bad guys? Is this going to go like the Wolves did, which petered out and amounted to nothing? No,
We got Morgan back with the Wolves.
We could have gotten Morgan back. I don't
care what you
like
say.
Any other way.
The Wolves brought us Morgan back. I don't care that they suddenly weren't existing anymore. We got Morgan back, and
well, listen, Morgan is about to whoop somebody's ass over on Fear. That's a totally different story.
Yeah, he is.
But we got one of the interesting things that we start off with the whole Maggie Negan road trip is the fact that it's Maggie and Negan having to put their incredibly nasty tensions aside and work together for the common good. And that's been tough for Maggie because she wasn't around to see Negan's transformation. But even if she had been, she watched Negan bludgeon her husband to death with a bat. His eyeball popped out. It was gross as shit. And she's never going to get over that.
And
she shouldn't. Yeah, there should be no way to do it. So she's having to walk this balancing act where she has to put her considerable and understandable shit aside so that she can ultimately get this food and these supplies for the rest of the community. And that's led to some pretty tense moments. It's also led at the beginning of the season to Negan seemingly returning to form when he left her to, die at the hands of the walkers in that tunnel. I mean, what did you think of that?
So this was my take on it. Maggie has had absolutely zero problem telling Negan and anybody else that she will kill him if given the chance. And so in that tunnel, when the walkers pulled Maggie down off of that subway car and Negan just didn't help, he just turned around and walked off.
What was he supposed to do? Yeah, I get that.
I wouldn't help somebody that's, just saying, I will kill you if I get the chance.
All the time.
Who's going to do that?
All the time.
And it's Negan.
But Negan's character
can only redeem himself so much when you have literally beat people to death with baseball bats. I don't care how many alphas you kill. You can only redeem yourself so much.
I mean, and you're not wrong, and to a degree, like, nobody trusts him, but at the same time, the rest of the community kind of grudgingly accepts that he's contributing.
Right.
And there's been real character growth.
There has
been. For him, and I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan has gotten to dial it back a notch, which was really, really needed after season 7 and 8, where he was in, full-blown reading Kirkman's dialogue out loud mode.
Minus all the F-bombs.
Minus all the F-bombs, which is stupid.
It was stupid.
But, and that's just total sidebar, but that's definitely an example of something that works really well in comics but doesn't translate to the screen, is Negan's dialogue. Because when you read it in comics, you're just like, this guy's hilarious. And then you hear somebody actually saying that out loud, like, time to get your shit in pants. And you're just like, this is so stupid. So I'm really, really glad that the writers of Walking Dead realized that and actually allowed Negan to grow and mature as a character and come out of that persona that he had adopted for survival and leadership purposes. But you can't outrun your past.
That's true.
Especially not on The Walking Dead.
That's so true.
So, Catherine, what do you think are the odds that
Negan survives this?
That's
a big old 0%.
Yeah,
Negan's gonna die at some point. It's just a
matter of when Maggie does it.
or the Reapers. Which one's going to kill him first?
It'll be Maggie.
And it's gotta be Maggie.
Has to be. It won't be. It can't be anyone with but Maggie. And it's honestly, it's gonna come at a point. It'll be like the last episode, maybe, or the next to last episode, when everybody's least expecting it, and then
she'll
bang.
Just pull a gun and kill him right there in front of everybody.
Yeah, or just I don't even think it'll be something quick. I think she's gonna have a bat.
Okay, yeah.
So Maggie's group gets whittled down pretty quickly.
Yeah, they've ditched one
Alden.
person. Yeah, they ditched Alden.
Alden is pretty mortally wounded, left by the side of the road. Who knows if we'll even see him again at this point? I mean, they left him just staying there. So even if it's just, hey, Alden, we're back, and then he's all brains. I mean, just give us a little bit of closure on this character. You know, he hasn't done anything in a while. He was a kind of minorly important character in season 8. You know, whatever. But don't just leave us hanging on that. But you know, it's basically been Gabriel, Negan, Maggie,
and then the random dude that brought home with her.
Random dude, yes. Dude number 270.
Exactly. But Negan has taught Maggie and the others a nifty trick he learned while out and about with the Whisperers. And so now they have the numbers to take on the Reapers.
Yes.
Ew.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool, I guess. But, I mean, I just kind of feel like this entire subplot of them taking 8 episodes to get this stuff has been really dragged out.
It has been, but they've had other storylines going along with it.
They have. I mean, it's become entangled with Daryl's solo story arc.
And I cannot believe he got kidnapped again. But that's besides the point. And
is it though?
I gotta say, based on what is happening at Alexandria, I do not think this is taking as long as it would seem. I think it's only been maybe a couple of days, because that storm is either raging for a week or it's been going for, a few hours.
It's kind of hard. You're right. It's kind of hard the way that Walking Dead episodes are staged to all the time have a sense of time.
Yeah.
Because it's really decompressed, and when you have the storytelling mode where you'll have a whole episode that focuses on this group or this person, and then the next episode doesn't focus on them at all, and then we leapfrog to Connie and the oh my god, which we're going to definitely get to that, and it's the way that it leapfrogs around, because they have a good budget on the show, but they just can't balance every subplot every episode. And they haven't for a very long time. So, I mean, I don't think they have successfully since probably season 4, at least not consistently. But it means that time gets a little wonky. So, like, seasons 7 and 8 get dogged out a lot because they seem really dragged out. But Catherine, when you rewatched them, for example, you found something interesting out.
Yeah, everything goes a lot faster. It's not as much time as you think it is. Lori, the actress, was pregnant forever on that show. If you go back and you watch it all, back to back to back, everything up to the time that Lori dies. And when was that? Season 3? 4?
The
That was
Lori
the
dies.
governor.
No, it was not long at all. It was in season 3.
Yeah, season 3. So
Yeah,
from the
'cause
start of
it's-
season 1 to season 3, that's all a matter of 9 months.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's how it keeps going.
Yeah, I want to say like seasons 7 and 8 are a pretty compressed amount of time too.
It's
I don't
like
remember.
a matter of a couple of
Yeah,
weeks.
so I mean, there's an argument to be made that upon binging this part of the season, it'll watch better if you watch it that way. But unless you go back and watch it, you're just not going to know yet.
Right.
So
I also watch World Beyond,
mhm.
and they were saying on there, because this is at the same time as Walking Dead, and that it's been 10 years,
Mhm.
which that totally tracks with how old Judith is now, because
Yeah.
they did that fast forward after.
Yeah, it's like a 6-year fast forward or something.
Yeah, after they killed off Riggs, which
Rick.
no, Chandler Riggs.
Oh, Chandler, yeah.
Yeah. They didn't kill off Rick.
Not at that point.
He's just missing.
Well,
yeah.
I don't even want to talk about that right now.
So anyways, our time frames are not as vast and as crazy as the show would lead you to believe when you're watching it one episode at a time.
Yeah.
That being said, can we talk about the Reapers now?
Yes. Now we're going to talk about the Reapers themselves. Go ahead.
These people are super culty. Super culty. Their leader's name is Pope, or at least their leader's name was Pope, up until Daryl's previous girlfriend,
his boo,
Leah, murdered him and then tried to blame it on Daryl, because Daryl had been lying about who he was so that he could survive the crazy culty people that would I don't know, push you into fire and stand on your face.
Which was arguably one of the most gruesome things we've seen on Walking Dead in quite a while.
Yeah.
It was cool.
It was pretty cool, but it was also pretty gross.
It was cool.
Yeah, like Daryl had been getting tortured. He got waterboarded.
Again, Daryl got tortured again.
Exactly. After he got kidnapped again.
At least they didn't make him listen to that song over and over again.
I love that song.
Nah, F that song.
That's my favorite kidnapping so far. But then they had Daryl do some torture on somebody that he had been traveling with. And he got this guy to keep his mouth shut about how much Daryl actually knew about Maggie and her other friends. And I don't know how they managed to get this guy to be quiet, because there's no way. Somebody starts pulling my fingernails off, I'm telling them everything they want to know. Anybody pulls like a toothpick in my general direction, I'm going to tell them everything I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not strong. I'm very weak. I will rat everybody out.
At least you're honest about it.
It's true. I don't want my eyes becoming cocktails.
No. But so yeah, I mean, we got the whole cultiness of the Reapers, and that right there sort of, I don't know, it's, to me, it was sort of a break with the way they were initially presented in that tacked on COVID episode from last season, because I don't know, it's like, oh my god, they're these stealth ninjas and they jump out and they're crazy and they kill everybody, and then you just start hanging around them and they're just like ordinary dudes.
Well, I
like
think
you run into on every other season of The Walking Dead.
I think they're actually ex-military. Based on what Leah was saying.
Yeah.
They may actually be ex-military, special forces of some sort. Based on what Pope was saying, that after they were done, they didn't know what to do, so they were basically mercenaries, and this was the biggest fight. And they kept noticing that they wouldn't die, like their group, the Reapers, they kept winning and they wouldn't die and stuff like that. Well, then Pope is losing his ever-loving mind. So their stronghold used to belong to Maggie, the group she was with when she wasn't at home at Alexandria.
Yeah.
And so Pope's group came in, murdered all of Maggie's people that were there, stole their home, stole all their food, and Maggie's back, and Maggie wants it all so she can take it back to Alexandria where her son and the rest of her family is.
So she's stealing some trucks.
Exactly. Driving them through gates and
But-
letting her new Walker friends come in.
Yes, damn right. So I gotta say, like, when Pope was first introduced, I don't think they, like, he had these delusions of grandeur, this cult leader aspect, but it was not immediately evident that he's utterly imbalanced beyond that, right? But Richie Coster, who's the name of the actor that played Pope, did an awesome job of underplaying him just right until the moment that he has to go crazy and shove somebody's face in a fire.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a moment where you can look back later on and be like, oh, that's where Leah's faith with Pope broke. Is, oh shit, he's a little crazy. And unfortunately, Daryl makes a rare and uncharacteristic judgment of character and assumes that she is now going to be willing to abandon the Reapers, and it's really just Pope that she was abandoning.
Yep.
Because he was willing to sacrifice everybody. So that was actually a pretty good twist, because they set Pope up like he's going to be, along with Milton, I guess, the last human-sized big bad of the show. And then it goes in this totally different direction where now it's Leah. And Daryl, you just have shit taste in women. That's all I got to say.
It's true. And now Leah has dog.
And Leah has dog?
Leah's the worst.
And Leah is definitely the worst, because not only did she not leave with Daryl and hang out with the crazy people, she also blamed Pope's murder on Daryl and made him have to flee.
Yes.
So he was very heartbroken, and it would be a lot at the beginning of this arc where she first comes back. It's like, oh, she's back, because she's introduced in one of those COVID episodes from late last year that was kind of just thrown together and felt really rushed, and like we're really expected to believe and invest in this relationship that Daryl, this eternal loner, has with this woman we just met. And I don't know, I didn't buy it.
I don't know. I've always thought Daryl was more of a not a relationships person.
No, he's asexual.
Most definitely.
It's really obvious.
And it's, I don't know. I think so. A lot of people were pushing for him and Carol to be together. And I know, no, they're destined to be besties.
They have to be.
No matter how many times Carol has screwed up. And then now they've got Connie, or they had Connie, and now they brought her back. And a lot of people are like, yay, Daryl and Connie, they're super cute.
No, Connie is more like his little sister.
Exactly. It would just be weird. And then there was, Daryl is definitely more of the I'm your bestie deal, and not the I'm your lover deal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I don't know why everybody thought that Leah was his boo or whatever, but
because that's what the writers want you to believe. It's,
I think they were just willing to survive together while he was on the outs with Carol.
Yeah,
and not wanting to go home.
I guess there's some truth to that. And I mean, for what it's worth, the actress that plays Leah, and I'm blanking on her name. I mean, she does a decent job. Like, she really does sell you into believing, okay, she's over Pope's bullshit. She's over the Reapers. She's gonna go hang out with Daryl and Escape. And so, yeah, that actually made her heel turn be pretty impactful. Yeah. And so that's definitely setting the next, at least third of the series, or of the season, excuse me, towards that particular Alexandria showdown with the Reapers, with Daryl stuck in the middle. Lovelorn Daryl, who does not have dog anymore, which is very upsetting.
That's true. Very upsetting. But I think the Commonwealth is going to come in, stomp out the Reapers, and everybody's going to live happily ever after.
I think there's a chance of that. I really do, because what they're doing right now is they're setting up a kind of a triangulation of sorts between Commonwealth, Alexandria, and Reapers. And I mean, of those three, like, the Commonwealth's just going to stomp everybody's ass if they have to. But if they're allies with Alexandria, well, sorry, it's a
Yeah.
bad day to be a Reaper, especially when you've got, Stormtrooper armor and Mercer.
Yeah. Mercer's amazing.
That dude that they got to play Mercer is perfect.
Yeah, he is.
He looks just like he does in comics. Like, that's some of the best casting they've done on the show.
Since Princess.
Really? Well, yeah. I mean, easily since Princess. So, yeah, I think that's actually a pretty smart prediction as to how that's all going to go down. So, we've got that. We've got Daryl. I mean, Daryl went through some crazy crap. He's reunited with Maggie and Negan, and maybe we'll see Alden again. I don't know. But, I think it would be impossible to talk about this season without mentioning On the Inside. Where Connie and Virgil, who Virgil, you'll recall last season, was a crazy person who kidnapped Michonne for a while and had some penance to pay. And he is the one who found Connie after she finally got out from being trapped underground. They basically go to the worst house on the entire planet.
Not willingly.
They
but were herded there.
They were. It's true. But let's be real, the worst house on the entire planet. On the Inside is a standout episode in the entire, not just this season, but the entire history of the show. Like,
yeah,
if you had to make a top 10 list and did not put On the Inside in there, you're crazy. It was directed by Greg Nicotero, and he absolutely put all of his horror cred to good use, perfect use, and gave us simultaneously a kind of a bottle episode, but one that just hit all of the horror and fear buttons perfectly without relying on cheap jump scares. How'd you feel about that episode?
Oh my gosh. So it starts out with, well, may not be exactly where it starts out. Connie and Virgil are running through the woods and they're like, well, where do we go? And of course, Connie's deaf. Virgil doesn't speak sign language. And so Connie's just like, we got to keep moving. So they keep moving and they get into this house and she's on edge because apparently she never sleeps anymore. And Virgil's
because of her PTSD.
Right? From being underground. Caused by a series of bad choices made by Carol.
Mm-hmm.
But so she's on edge. Virgil goes and checks out the house and he's trying to reassure her and get her to take a nap. Just take a nap. Mm-hmm. And she's like, not doing it. And so she goes and checks the house and oh my gosh, things just go downhill from there. Oh, so she's checking the house. She goes into the bathroom. She moves the shower curtain. Keep in mind, it's Walking Dead and I just keep expecting something to eat her face.
Right. I mean, we're expecting zombies or a crazy person because, there's no shortage of crazy peeps on Walking Dead. And instead what we get are the ferals. And they're people that have gone beyond crazy and are just running amok on all fours like feral animals and eating people. Mm-hmm. And it is so freaking well done. Forget about the people under the stairs. I mean, this episode kills it.
Yes.
In every regard. Oh. And what an absolute showcase for the actress that plays Connie.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, she's always really good. Lauren Ridloff. She's always good because not only is she an amazing actress, but she's an amazing actress who is deaf and mute. And she has to act around that, and she sells it perfectly.
Oh, so and perfectly.
The showrunners are smart, and they occasionally play into that, and that's part of what this episode does so well, is that it continuously gives you perspectives from Connie. She can't hear. She can't yell. So when she's watching through a wall, it's one of these ferals creeping up behind Virgil. She cannot warn him other than to bang on the wall, which he misinterprets as she's trying to get my attention so I can help her get out of the wall. Oh my God.
No, I think he thought it was another feral with the way he was stabbing into that wall.
Maybe. I didn't interpret it that way.
I did until her arm came through. He almost stabbed her in the face.
That's true. Okay, you're right. You're right. I did misremember that. But yeah, I mean, just this is the type of thing, this sort of, and it's not an entirely one-off episode because we do have some side quests with the stuff with Pope and Daryl and Leah and the Reapers, but the majority of the episode is Connie and Virgil's crazy, creepy fight for survival. And I mean, if Walking Dead had committed to doing more just one-off episodes like this that really, really stood on their own, I think that a lot of what felt like drags and drudgery and slow pacing in the last few seasons would have been mitigated a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's smart. It's it's smartly written. And it just works perfectly. Like, look, Walking Dead. I know Greg Nicotero does all the FX and makes all the zombies, but please, please, please do not let this show end without him directing another episode, because On the Inside is pretty close to flawless.
Oh yeah, most definitely. My favorite part about that episode was that they kept cutting the sound. So, like, you were experiencing exactly what Connie was experiencing, and that was the most stressful shit ever.
For sure.
Like, I could totally quote our 15-year-old.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, what the fuck? Hell no! Go watch the episode. It's amazing.
Yes, you absolutely should see that. If you don't even watch Walking Dead anymore, and I mean, a lot of folks, season 7 on, the numbers started to drop and fan satisfaction went downhill. And I mean, the show itself started showing a lot of strain of being long in the tooth, especially while Scott Gimple was still being showrunner. It's gotten a shot in the arm under Angela Kang since she took over in season 9.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still, you've got a show that's now in its 11th season. I don't care who's running the show. It's gonna look old at times.
Yeah.
There's no ways around. There's no two ways around it.
Especially in this genre. I mean, if any of you ever watched Supernatural, it had its good times and it had its bad times. Yeah. But if you stick it out and keep up with your show, I mean, if you're a real fan, you're going to love it no matter what.
I'm a real fan of The Flash, but that show is testing my goddamn patience the last couple seasons. So I don't know about being a real fan having anything to do with it. I mean, if something is insulting your intelligence, or the writing's gotten sloppy, or they've swapped out so many actors and actresses that you love, which is definitely something that's happened to The Walking Dead, that, I mean, I can understand, We've been watching this show since the beginning, and I mean, it's hard at this point, especially so close to the finish line, to not still feel invested to a certain point. And there was definitely some episodes throughout seasons 7, 8, 9 that really felt like not a hate watch for me, but I was really struggling to remain invested. And it's episodes like On the Inside that have rewarded my patience through some of the lean times.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I fully agree with that. I mean, but you stick it out. I've come this far. I want to see how it ends. Part of me really, really hopes it's a fire sale and everything goes. But at the same time, I really want to see everybody get their happy ending.
That would be the most nihilistic thing ever if literally everyone just got eaten by zombies and that's how the show ends. It's like the last shot is Carol and Daryl motorcycling away, and as zombies converge on Dog, Commonwealth, Alexandria, they've been overrun. It's like literally zombies as far as the eye can see, and Dog's like, I'm a good boy, and then they just leave him, and they're like, fuck that. And yep, that's how the show ends.
Like, part of me wants to see that, but part of me also wants to see everybody get their happy ending. And I don't know, maybe Daryl and Carol finally go off to New Mexico like they kept talking about last season.
Maybe.
Maybe that's what
Maybe
happens.
Jerry and his wife will have even more kids.
No, they shouldn't do that. I mean,
maybe King Ezekiel will get a second goiter.
No, I don't think he should do that.
This
either.
is Absalom.
Friend of Balthazar. They are both thirsty bitches.
So, I mean, love it or no, this has been a mostly positive season of Walking Dead. We still got a triple size, well, I guess not triple, but a third larger season than usual. It wraps up around this time next year, and that'll be it. And I mean, what more can you say after a show that's been such a cultural juggernaut and ratings juggernaut, and really just a great ambassador of comics making the leap into other genres, right? Like, if Walking Dead was the little comic that could, and I firmly believe that it is, and I think Mike and I got into that pretty heavily episode or two ago. Then I mean, Walking Dead is just an extension of that, the miraculous nature of the comic, in that the show itself, a show that's so gory and occasionally nihilistic and will just break your heart and stomp on it from time to time, could resonate with so many people on such a massive level, I think is really remarkable. And the fact that it's still going and still able to rein enough people in 11 seasons in, that to me is just absolutely remarkable. And everybody that's been involved with it from the very beginning, especially those that got it started and aren't there anymore, I mean, hats should be off to literally everyone involved. So, do you have any final thoughts, any predictions for what we're going to see in the next 8 episodes, Catherine?
Ooh, let's see. My biggest prediction: Maggie's gonna kill Negan. There's no way around it.
Well, that's not going to be in the next 8 episodes, but I think we definitely agree on that.
Ooh. Daryl and Carol are most definitely going to survive whatever happens.
Because they have the Daryl and Carol power hour.
So, Connie and Virgil are going to find love.
I don't know. Virgil seems like he's way older than her.
I don't care. It's just a number and it's the apocalypse.
I'm not.
My hope is that the rest of the season stays just close enough to the comic, but takes its own little spin on everything. And it's going to have to at this point, because Carl's dead. Rick is missing. Michonne's not there anymore. All Dwight's not there. All the big players in the comic aren't there. So they're going to have to stick close, but take their own spin on it.
And they always have.
Yeah, they always have.
So.
But those are my hopes and wishes and predictions. And
yeah, well, but yeah, I think then all we can do is hope for the best and watch as the world of the Commonwealth burns, because that honestly almost feels a little undercooked at this point. Like, we've really just scratched the surface of what's going to happen with Commonwealth, I think.
Yeah.
So that's my big predictor, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but we will see together, and we will see you all next week for the next fantastic episode of the Comic Watchers Show. Mighty Mike Eakins will be back. I'd like to thank my ever-loving wife, Catherine Meyer, for hanging out with me and geeking out about Walking Dead. Until next time, read something cool, support your local comic store, and above all, be kind to each other. Thank you so much for listening.